to the third installment of our 2024 Mosaic series, exploring Santa Monica's diverse creative arts world. In tonight's program, we focus on the communities, artists, and varied expressions that have brought international recognition to Santa Monica's art scene. We thank our 2024 Mosaic sponsor, Boston Properties, for helping to make this series possible. We begin with a brief overview of the city's artistic culture, past and present. Then our featured speakers will provide closer looks at two especially notable arts communities. This will be followed by a Q&A session, which you may access by using your Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You will also notice that you have a closed caption option. Tonight's program includes a watch party at the Conservancy's Shotgun House in Ocean Park. We extend a big welcome to our party guests. Artists from throughout the world have been attracted to Santa Monica for its unique natural light and beach culture, but also by affordable workspaces fashioned from abandoned buildings. As a result, historic arts communities took shape around the city, creating world-class art while giving new purpose to forgotten places. One such district was Main Street in Ocean Park, which blossomed with a profusion of colorful expressions during the 1960s and 70s. In the Mendota building at Main and Hill Streets, pioneering artists James Turrell developed his innovative light projection pieces. Just down the street in the Fuller Paint building at Ashland Avenue, expressionist artists Sam Francis and Richard Diebenkorn were creating their own masterpieces. Speaker Mark Gorman will tell us more about the Main Street scene later in the program. Moving east to Santa Monica's industrial fringe, the area boasted a thriving community of hundreds of painters, sculptors, and performers during the 60s and 70s. These artisans worked and sometimes lived in old abandoned spaces and rows of metal shacks. This included a neighborhood known as Drescherville, a funky conglomeration of 26 affordable studios tucked away just north of Olympic Boulevard, 2 blocks east of Stewart Street. The 6.5-acre community was named after John F. Drescher, a wealthy aeronautics engineer who built an industrial complex on the site in 1942. After the operations became obsolete in 1950, Drescher began renting space to artists and other creatives at prices they could afford. One of Drescherville's most notable tenants was the original campus of the Southern California Institute of Architecture, SCI-Arc, at 1800 Berkeley Street. Drescher allowed the school to renovate the interior of the structure so students can create a less traditional learning space. Drescher, seen here, is receiving an award from Pepperdine University. He lived in the complex at the same time, mingled with the artists. He died in 2000 and left his property to Pepperdine. He also funded the Drescher Planetarium at Santa Monica College. A few blocks away on the other side of Olympic Boulevard, we find the Bergamot Station Arts Center. For 3 decades, the 5-acre campus has been a major player in Santa Monica's creative arts community. The collective offers equity and access to the visual and performing arts through inclusive, community-driven programming like free exhibitions and other educational experiences. The campus once served as a railroad depot and freight station from 1875 to 1953. After the railroad stopped running, the site's warehouse buildings housed a celery packing operation, an ice making plant, and a water heater factory. Ultimately, the city purchased the property and it evolved into one of the largest art complexes in the country. Today, it hosts art galleries, large-scale installations, educational spaces, live performances, even a comedy club, and artist studios. One of the city's most recent art-friendly venues is the redeveloping Santa Monica Airport, including the cavernous Barker Hangar. The 3,500 square foot structure was erected by Bill Lear in the 1960s to build his iconic Lear jets. However, the city nixed the idea, and the hangar languished empty for years until Bill Barker purchased the hangar and his daughter Judy repurposed it as a multi-event space. For the past several years, the Barker has hosted the Other Art Fair, offering affordable works and immersive installations by over 100 artists. Each spring, Frieze Los Angeles, known as the world's leading platform for modern art, moves into the Barker Hangar, attracting artists, galleries, collectors, and art lovers alike. A historic hangar next to the Barker hosts Art at the Airport, an art complex operated by the city. More than 20 seasoned artists and 3 contemporary art galleries converge under one massive roof. The 18th Street Art Center, encompassing around 1.5 acres just north of Olympic, is a nonprofit organization founded in 1988. It has the longest running artist residency program in Southern California, hosting more than 60 American and international artists and curators a year. Later in tonight's program, Executive Director Jan Williamson will speak about the 35-year history and current programming. Beyond arts organizations and creative communities, Santa Monica's diverse artistic expression can also be found throughout the city in the form of public art installations and street murals, many of which offer bold social statements. One of the more notable public installations in the city is Paul Conrad's 1992 sculpture Chain Reaction. Located on Main Street north of Pico, the metalwork depicts a mushroom cloud in a stark reference to the specter of nuclear war. The Belmar History and Art Project at Pico and 4th provides a historical reflection on the once vibrant African American community that was replaced by municipal redevelopment. Other art pieces in the city can be found tucked into building plazas, anchoring street corners, and gracing city parks, all representing a more populous side of Santa Monica's arts collective. Now I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Ocean Park historian Mark Gorman, who will talk about the Main Street art culture of the 1960s and 70s. Mark is currently conducting the Conservancy's new Main Street tour, which is offered once a month on Saturdays at 10:30. And you can get more information by visiting our website, santamonicaconservancy.org, for more details. Mark, welcome to the program.
In the 1960s, there were many artists living and working in the Santa Monica area, all of them self-directed, doing different things in different mediums, unconstrained by history and the New York critics. They were aware of each other, but they never really functioned as a group. In the mid-60s, 3 important artists turned up on Main Street: Francis, Diebenkorn, and Terrell. Francis and Diebenkorn are abstract painters, while Terrell, a generation younger, is interested in light. We'll look at those 3 artists. Our first artist is Sam Francis. When Sam Francis comes to Santa Monica in '63, Sam Francis is no starving artist. He's a major international artist, and supports himself by his art. He's selling his large paintings for $25,000 when university professors made $11,000 a year. He has assistants, both personal and artistic, and he walks around with a roll of $100 bills. This is a typical Sam Francis painting. Francis has a compound and a house and a large studio on West Channel Road in Santa Monica Canyon, but it's an open house. He's got assistants, wives, children, and visitors constantly dropping by, and he needs a quiet space away from it, get away from the chaos, and he rents the second floor of a building on the corner of Ashland and Main in Ocean Park. This is his other studio. The two-story building was built in 1923 by the Fuller Paint Company, and in 1966, there's a Barrett's household appliance store on the first floor, and the second floor is partially occupied by a sailmaker. This is the Ashland building today. It's the old First Federal Bank building. Francis, often described as a controlled Jackson Pollock, liked to paint unrestrained in his underwear with a canvas on the floor. At the Ashland studio, he completes his Edge series and the monumental Berlin Red. That's a painting that's 36 feet by 24 feet. This is Francis painting Berlin Red on the floor of the Ashland studio. Francis is extremely important to the Los Angeles art world, and unfortunately, we're not going to be saying too much more about Francis, as the 18th Street Art Center did a complete program on Francis in 2022, and it's available on their website, and we suggest you go look there. Our second artist is Richard Diebenkorn, painter of the Ocean Park series. In 1966, San Francisco trained artist Richard Diebenkorn, age 44, takes up a teaching job at UCLA. Diebenkorn supports himself by teaching, which he doesn't really enjoy. He doesn't like to talk about, and he doesn't like to explain art. He's always reticent. Sam Francis, who's very generous to artists, offers Diebenkorn his second floor walk-up studio at Main and Ashland. But as usual, chaos surrounds Francis. When Diebenkorn arrives in 66, Francis is still there. So Diebenkorn uses a small windowless room in the center of the building as a temporary studio for 6 months. Finally, in 1967, Diebenkorn gets to move into Sam Francis' vacated space at the back of the Ashland building, away from Main Street. This is Diebenkorn in the back studio. The view through Diebenkorn's back studio window looks out east, up the hillside, up to 4th Street, the streets crossing each other, the power lines, and often the marine layer fog. And this is a view out his window. This is what he would see when he looks out. The early paintings Diebenkorn makes in this new Ashland studio are representational, namely a few landscapes and views from his windows. This is a 1967 painting of the view from his window. Then, and a surprise to everyone, including probably Diebenkorn, he begins a series of abstract paintings for which he's best known, the Ocean Park series. From 1967 to 1985, Diebenkorn makes a total of 115 paintings, all with the same title, Ocean Park. This saves Diebenkorn from having to talk about or explain them. This is Ocean Park #1, painted in 67, shortly after he set up in the back studio. And it gives you an idea of the scale of his canvases. He makes all his canvases this scale. This is Ocean Park #1. The next paintings, Ocean Parks 2 through 5, are failures, and he destroys them. And actually, he never wanted Ocean Park #1 to be shown either. And the official beginning of the Ocean Park series is Ocean Park #6. So Ocean Park 6 begins the series. And this is a typical painting. This is another painting. This is Ocean Park #40 from 1971. This is a very typical Diebenkorn Ocean Park series. At the Ashland studio, he paints Ocean Park series #1 through #91. And the last painting, this is the last painting. This is #91. This is the last painting he paints at the Ashland studio. In 1973, Diebenkorn resigns his UCLA position and devotes him full-time to art. Diebenkorn is 51. In the early 70s, a group of investors are buying up buildings on Main Street, fixing them up, installing new tenants. Diebenkorn sees the writing on the wall and the opportunities. And in 1974, he buys a 50-foot wide lot on Main Street, just opposite Edgemar, to build his own studio. Diebenkorn works with Santa Monica architect Carl Day to design the new studio. It has leased space on the ground floor to help pay for the building and an open studio for Diebenkorn on the second floor. The studio faces east across Main Street and away from the ocean. Diebenkorn is more interested in light than in water. Diebenkorn signs his paintings R.D. and the date. He's always reticent. And a modest bronze plaque is attached to this building that reads R.D. Studios, 1975 to 1988. This is Diebenkorn in his new studio. When you're looking at photographs of Diebenkorn, you can always identify which studio he's in. The new studio has those exposed gray concrete blocks. So this is the building that he owns and still is in the Diebenkorn family. At his new studio, the series continues with Ocean Park number 92 on the left and ends with Ocean Park number 140 on the right. In 1986, Diebenkorn, age 64, after 20 years of being here in Santa Monica, moves to Healdsburg, Sonoma, where he dies in 93. Our third artist is Jim Terrell, a generation younger than Francis and Diebenkorn, and Terrell is interested in light as an artistic material. Much of Terrell's light work is based on the principles of what's called a Ganzfeld. It's an absolutely uniform field of light that has no perceivable foreground, no perceivable background, and no point of focus. And your eyes keep trying to focus on it, but can't find where to focus. A Ganzfeld is like stepping into paint. And this is one of his installations. Terrell is a bit of a mystery, his personal life and the source of his income, and he's always elusive and he doesn't want to talk about either. Terrell was born in Los Angeles, and in 1960, he has a Quaker background, and he does conscientious objector service by flying Buddhist monks in and out of Tibet for the CIA. In 1961, he majors in mathematics and perceptual psychology at Pomona College and takes a lot of art classes. And then he attends graduate school at UCI. His eureka moment comes when he notices that projected slide images of the art, and he's looking at Rothko here, have a luminosity that is missing in the original. He was quite disappointed when he went to see a real Rothko that it wasn't as luminous as shown in his art classes. And he wondered why. So he did some experiments with high intensity slide projectors and with flammable gas. And his Irvine teachers told him, "You don't need us, go out and become an artist." Terrell owns a small plane and supports himself by delivering mail, packages, crop dusting, and aerial cartography. In 1966, in a sting operation by the FBI, Terrell is arrested and jailed for counseling potential Vietnam draftees. In 1967, the 24-year-old Terrell leases the entire Mendota building on the corner of Main and Hill. You'd probably recognize it as the old Starbucks building. He blocks the windows, seals and plasters and smooths every interior surface, and paints the ceiling, the walls, and the floors white. He makes openings, light apertures in the walls, and lets in exterior light. And from 1969 to 1974, he creates the Mendota stoppages, named after the building, using several rooms in the Mendota to make use of available exterior light, that is natural sunlight, and also the light from the traffic signals outside, street lights, car lights, and anything else that goes by the building. This image we see now is external light directed across the rooms in the Mendota. And remember that those rooms are all white, but by directing the light, he gets this effect. He holds many performances in the building, and they're very long, and most viewers' eyes grow pretty weary in the low light conditions. Turrell is interested in the fact that we can see images with our eyes closed, that is, vision occurring with the absence of external stimuli. Like when we dream, we can see, but there is no actual light coming in. So at the end of these experiments, he shuts all of the light off and reduces the room to black. But many in the audience continue to see the light. They believe that the lighting has remained at this low level, but they're actually experiencing retinal after effects that are internally produced and not actually produced by light itself. Turrell continues transforming rooms in the Mendota. He makes spaces and divides them by walls of colored light that look solid until you come close to them. He cuts his first sky space in the roof. He cuts a hole in the roof of the building that looks straight up into the sky. He resides in the Mendota building until 1974, when he goes to Arizona, moves his residence and his studio to Arizona, leaving the landlord with a strangely altered building. At the Rodin Crater in Arizona, he continues doing what he did at the Mendota, but now on a monumental scale. As I said, in the mid-70s, Main Street is gentrified, not by artists, but by real estate investors. And Main Street is busy with restaurants, antique stores, clothing stores, and a few commercial art galleries. Our three important artists are displaced from Main Street. But only Main Street gentrifies. Many of the less-known world artists are unaffected, and they continue living and working in the Ocean Park neighborhood, but our three artists have gone. I'll turn it back to Libby.
Thank you, Mark. Very interesting. It also occurred to me that you have a very wonderful delivery, and I intend to sign up for your next Main Street tour in October. And now Jan Williamson, Executive Director of the 18th Street Art Center, will discuss the history and aspirations of the thriving, socially conscious, and globally respected arts communities. Welcome to the program, Jan.
Thank you, Libby. It's a pleasure to be here today. In 1988, 18th Street Art Center was co-founded by two homegrown LA artists, Linda Fry Burnham and Susanna Bixby-Dakin. The seed for 18th Street was planted 4 years earlier by Dakin, a visual and performance artist, when she emerged from the Pacific Ocean to announce her campaign to run for President of the United States. It was 1983, and Ronald Reagan was running for his second term. Dakin's campaign, An Artist for President, was a durational performance artwork that took her and her entourage of fellow artists around the United States, where she gave speeches and press interviews, calling upon people to see the nation as an artwork and the citizens as its artists. When she was asked by the press what she would do if she made it into the White House, Sue responded that she would turn it into an alternative art space. Let's see, I think you want me to have my video off, so I'm going to turn that off. And so 4 years later, she and Burnham co-founded 18th Street Art Center in Santa Monica. Sue Dakin didn't just emerge from the ocean. She emerged from LA's flourishing feminist performance art scene, where she met Linda Fry Burnham, a writer who had launched the first performance art magazine by writing to an international list of male artists that a friend had given her, and by asking them to submit documentation of their performances. The image on the right is the first issue of High Performance magazine in 1977 with artist Suzanne Lacey. This is her performance, Cinderella in a Dragster, from 1976. In the performance, Lacey drove onto Dominguez Hill State College campus in a dragster, where she delivered a rapid-fire monologue on time and movement, where she calculated, among other things, the amount of time she drove up and down California each week, teaching one day in San Francisco, one day in Los Angeles, and one day in San Diego. When Sue Dakin realized she wanted to create a place for artists to gather, she knew she wanted it to be near the ocean where the air was clean. Linda Burnham found this property that is now 18th Street's home, and Dakin purchased it. It has 5 funky mid-century warehouses and already had a history of being used for artist studios. This is an image of one of the buildings when it was Judy Chicago's studio in the mid-70s, when she was creating her iconic feminist artwork, The Dinner Party. Once Dakin purchased the property, Burnham drew upon the long list of artists who had been featured in High Performance magazine to form a diverse kitchen cabinet of LA artists that began to populate the buildings. Tim Miller, Guillermo Gomez Pena, Coco Fusco, Paul McCarthy, Barbara T. Smith, Francisco Letelier, Suzanne Lacey, Marcus Kula Nazario, John Malpede, Dan Kwong are just a few of the original artists shaping 18th Street in the early days. Dakin and Burnham's collaboration fueled Astro Arts, their nonprofit that first published High Performance magazine and multiple artist books, and then launched 18th Street and Highways Performance Space. This first 5 years of 18th Street was a riot of colorful, outrageous creativity. Highways Performance Space was presenting new work every week. The magazine was going out internationally every quarter, and a dozen or more artists and emerging arts organizations were all working at the new campus. Guillermo Gomez Pena, who had just been awarded a MacArthur Genius Fellowship at the time, and Coco Fusco lived here and would throw epic artist parties. This is one of their performances from that time, The Couple in the Cage, that they toured in 1993. They exhibited themselves at various public spaces as caged Amerindians from an imaginary island. While their intent was to create a satirical commentary on the notion of discovery, they soon realized that many of the viewers believed the fiction and thought the artists were real savages. Adding to this early notoriety of 18th Street was Tim Miller, who co-founded Highways Performance Space with Burnham. He was one of the now infamous NEA four performance artists. This is Holly Hughes, John Fleck, Karen Finley, and Tim Miller, who were embroiled in a national battle that went all the way to the Supreme Court after having their NEA grants revoked by conservative Congress members based on their arts subject matter. Ultimately, the artists' freedom of speech prevailed, but it forever changed the NEA, which stopped giving grants to individual artists. The AIDS epidemic was sadly still a national crisis, and 18th Street, which by now was a center for LGBTQIA artists, gathered here frequently to organize protests with ACT UP LA. These are a couple of images from protests at City Hall in downtown LA. By 1993, the staff of 18th Street, who had put so much into launching this experimental space, were burned out. Not to mention the LA uprising and the Northwood earthquake had just happened. People were exhausted. High Performance Magazine, Highways Performance Space, and 18th Street split apart into 3 separate organizations with different boards and staff. Linda Burnham moved to North Carolina and took the magazine with her. Highways continued under new leadership, and 18th Street was left with no public programs. Sue Dakin still owned the property, and the need for new programs became paramount. To move forward, 18th Street began focusing more on its artist residents and the multiple nonprofits it had accidentally incubated with the low rents. These are a few of the first arts organizations that still exist today as a result of these subsidies. You might recognize CARS, which is best known for launching Ciclavia. This incubator program was sunset in the late 1990s when artists moved away from starting their own nonprofits and the need for affordable studio space increased. 18th Street at this time also formalized what is now its core residency program. with intentionally below market rents and a peer-reviewed application process. Frank, an artist born here in Santa Monica, was one of the early artists in residence. She was a founding artist at the Women's Building, a 70s punk musician, and lesbian folk singer, known for her Tupperware performances and sculpting in cardboard. This is an image in her studio. Alex Donis, whose work is known in part for the many attempts to censor his exhibitions, is a visual artist interested in reimagining conventional attitudes around race, religion, and sexuality. Both Frank and Donis were part of our residency program to provide affordable, creative time and space, which remains core to our mission. And as you can see, 18th Street leans heavily towards provocative artists who are pushing social norms to be more inclusive. In addition to incubating arts organizations and providing long-term, low-cost studios for artists, 18th Street also launched an international artist in residence program for visiting artists to come for short stays. This program is also still going strong today, and it's one of the largest in Southern California, with 20+ artists going through the program every year. Artists come in from all over the world to live at 18th Street for 2 to 3 months at a time. They have their own private studios and living spaces, and we've hosted over 500 artists from 65 countries since 1992. The program is multidisciplinary for both visual and performing artists, and these two jazz composers pictured here, Martina Roberts on the left and Tamika Reed on the right, are from our Make Jazz residency in partnership with the Herb Alpert Foundation, also a Santa Monica organization. Tamika on the right was just awarded a MacArthur Genius in 2022. She credits her 3-month residency with us in 2012 for advancing her career. And I recommend listening to her composition, Samo Swing, on our Vimeo channel that she wrote when she was here in residence in 2012. It's a good listen. In 2004, 18th Street began commissioning LA artists to make new work for our gallery. We focus on artists who were making participatory artworks that invited the public into the creative process. This project, pictured here by Alexandra Grant, was in 2013, was inspired by Grant's friendship with the French philosopher and writer Hélène Cixous around her book Philippines. Grant started a feminist theory book club, and that evolved into this installation artwork, Interior Forest, which was co-created with dozens of notable LA artists. And if you're a celebrity watcher, you might know who Grant's significant other is. Amir Fala is another painter we commissioned in 2015. He worked with school children creating group self-portraits focused on objects of significance to them, as well as portraits of their own imagined future selves. Kenyatta Hinkle created a whole new continent and culture, Kentifrica, for her commission in 2017. It too involved collaborations with visitors contributing to the new culture in Kentifrica and the ways of being through food, dress, and ritual. After 10 years of these experimental artist commissions, we wanted better ways to collaborate with our local neighbors that were more meaningful to them. So we started Culture Mapping 90404 to literally map the Pico neighborhood's cultural treasures and assets through local residents by recording their oral histories and uploading them onto an interactive map with video and images. Over 150 interviews were gathered and translated in Spanish, and dozens of new relationships were formed. The research paid off. Suddenly, artists could come from anywhere in the world to 18th Street and start making local projects with our neighbors. This was also the beginning of our ongoing partnerships with local community organizations, including Santa Monica Public Library, Community Corporation of Santa Monica, Otis College, USC's Price School of Public Policy, and of course, Santa Monica Conservancy. Culture Mapping 90404 opened up a pathway for artists to contribute their expertise in nurturing community well-being. So far, we've produced over 60 artist projects and held multiple block parties featuring the cultural treasures of Santa Monica identified through the oral histories. For example, this West Side Lowrider Car Club shown here. This next work is a 2017 mural by Brendan Fernandez, which features a quote from one of the oral histories we recorded. Fernandez had it translated into the 4 primary languages spoken in the Pico neighborhood to make the image for this mural. And this project focused on forgotten forms of knowledge, such as the craft of weaving that immigrants carry in their bodies. It was a collaboration with Renee Petropoulos and Oaxacan artisan Arturo Hernandez. It included hand-woven rebozo blankets created by Hernandez with artisans from Santa Monica's Oaxacan community. And it also included a performance at Santa Monica's Tongva Park, performed in the public, with the public reading in multiple simultaneous languages. This 2019 work by the Danish art collective that goes by the name The Winter Office assessed Santa Monica's airport as a site for artistic intervention as the city plans for the airport's closure. This next work by Santa Monica photographer Nicola Good repurposed the spontaneous Black Lives Matter murals on boarded up storefronts during the 2020 Black Lives Matter protests in Santa Monica. This next work, A Year of Wonder by Alana Mann, who is hard of hearing, explores practices of listening and amplifying voices that are yet unheard, with the goal of building equanimity in ourselves and increasing equity in our world. Her exhibition during the pandemic included virtual workshops that invited participants to create their own sound sculptures for healing self-expression. 10 of our culture mapping projects have been in collaboration with the Quinn Research Center to help them amplify a long-held vision to create an historic Black cultural district on Broadway in Santa Monica between 17th and 20th. By getting to know the Quinn Research Center folks through the culture mapping process, we learned that this stretch of Broadway has been a center of Black life in Santa Monica for over a century in our city. This image by Carla Diaz is one of the artist projects underway to become a mural. Developed through community workshops, it features community members from the Broadway corridor. Now, in our 35th anniversary year, 18th Street is starting to work at a new scale with artists and communities beyond Santa Monica. With the lessons learned over the last 10 years, we piloted a new statewide project in 2023 to support artists in multiple rural and urban communities across California. With a $3.3 million grant from the state, we were able to pay 18 artists a living wage of $65,000 with a $50,000 project budget to work in their communities for 1 year and create their own culture maps. Those projects are just wrapping up now, and you can read more about them on our website, and you can also see and interact with our initial map as well. Rand Corporation is helping us with the program, with the evaluation of the program. 18th Street continues to be a radical think tank for artists, providing them with creative time and space and helping them to produce artwork with an impact. With our world in constant turmoil, a creative core of artists is needed now more than ever to stimulate new ways of collective well-being. Arts and culture unites people, and 18th Street will be here bringing the artists for decades to come. Thanks, Libby. I'll hand it back to you.
Wow. Thank you, Jan. Lots and lots of activity and keep growing and keep expanding. Now it's time for questions from our audience, of which we have many. And I will try and focus on the speaker who might be best suited to answer them. I think I'll start with you, Jan. Does 18th Street still engage in social commentary or protests?
The artists do, yes, absolutely.
Do you have a recent example?
Well, I would say that during the pandemic, artists were out in the streets participating in the Black Lives Matter protests. Just as one example. That, you know, there's so many issues.
Yeah, I know. On the same note, this might be a little bit easier. Are there any international artists from war-disturbed countries like Ukraine?
Yes, actually, that's a great question. We have a partnership with a wonderful video curator, Asha Bukajemski, who's a Ukrainian artist that lives here in Los Angeles. And with her partnership, we've been bringing Ukrainian video artists to Los Angeles since the beginning of the war, actually, and have hosted them at both 18th Street and other places around Los Angeles.
That's another reason for keeping it up. Thank you.
Yeah, and we've had other residencies with artists who are in exile from their countries as well. So we've done partnerships with Penn Center, and we also hosted a number of artists who were displaced during Katrina in New Orleans. So yeah, there's been a lot of ways that we've supported artists.
Excellent. Mark, there were other artists working in the Venice area, such as Billy Al Bangston, Dwayne Valentine. Did any of these overlap with your trio?
Yes, they were there in Venice, all working away, and there was a lot of artists all around. And I only mentioned just the three that were really significant, but there are a great many of California artists working in different mediums, doing different things, and they're all aware of each other, but they didn't actually act together as a group. And the gentrification I said before of Main Street really didn't affect them. Is that Main Street gentrified, but the rest of the neighborhood remained much the same, and they continued to do work there.
One more question to you, Mark. Curious to know if Terrell's first sky space in the Mendota building was preserved.
No, I think the landlord actually made him fix it. So he cut a hole in the roof, and I think that's one of the things that the landlord made him fix. But it was a strangely altered building.
I think a big question for everyone here is, Jan, how do you choose your artists? Is there a programming board? How does this work? I know you mentioned peer review, but what about the artists that are coming in to rent the space, or artists who are featured in exhibitions?
Sure. We have an artist advisory council, and we also have an open application process online that is open year-round, and anybody can apply to it, and it's available on our website. And our staff goes through a review and scoring process and makes short lists and updates that on a regular basis. So yeah.
I'm curious, how many staff do you have?
Right now we have about 12 people. Not all of them are full-time though.
I see.
And by the way, I just want to mention, we
Please.
still own the property. Sue Dakin donated it to 18th Street in 1998, which is an incredible act of generosity that rarely happens in the art world. And it's because of that gift that 18th Street is still here today.
It's especially important with real estate so impossible in Santa Monica. Yeah.
And that's why we're imagining 100 years now into the future.
Yeah. I have another one for you. Do you have any collaborations with the Santa Monica schools? Public schools?
We do,
Private
not
schools?
in big formal approaches. It's more on a case-by-case basis. For example, right now, we're collaborating with the Conservancy and the Quinn Research Center to develop some new lesson plans around Black life in Santa Monica that can be utilized in Santa Monica schools in middle school age. So, yes.
That's great. That's good. Mark, are these artists predominantly represented in museums, or have they been scooped up by private collectors? How do you see, let's say somebody doesn't know a thing about Richard Diebenkorn, what would be a way of?
Yeah, there are some Richard Diebenkorns, and the Orange County Museum has a few ocean park. Most of them are taken up, and if you want to buy one, they're about $20 million each, but and there's 140 of them. So, and there's a bit Sam Francis. Sam Francis did very large paintings, and but there's a very good one at the Norton Simon Museum in Pasadena.
Right.
A piece of it. What happens is he made such huge paintings that people decided they could cut them up and sell them off in little pieces. And so the one at similarly at the Norton Simon is that kind of a thing.
He had something to do with the founding of MoCA. Yes.
Sam Francis was very important to Los Angeles art community. His presence in LA gave credibility to the art world, and artists and collectors came here to see him, but at the same time they said, oh, Los Angeles. And he was instrumental in the formation of MoCA. Artistically, he didn't provide the money, but the artists all surrounded him, and without him, there would be no MoCA. He is a very important person in Los Angeles art community.
Mm-hmm. Dan, here's one. Can you give us an example of a rural community project?
Oh, I would love to do that.
But you can't.
Well, okay, so Bakersfield is not rural anymore. Let me think of a different one. Well, the Bakersfield one is coming to mind first and foremost right now. This group, Border Patrol, has been working with a group of artisans in a downtown mercado in Bakersfield, which if you've been in downtown Bakersfield, it's pretty not very active space. And so the mercado has lots of different vendors in there, but it turns out there are a lot of little artisans. And so Border Patrol has been organizing them into an artist collective of sorts and documenting. They also made a culture map. So which you can find through our website. So they documented their histories, their art practices, and created a culture map from it. And one of the things that we found by doing a culture map in Santa Monica, and that we hope the other artists across California will do with their culture map, is use it to advocate to their local politicians for the support of these emergent artist projects and artist communities. We know that it can work and does work once you start to elevate those stories in a way, and you create a website and you start telling those stories. People start to congregate around it and start to do really fun things.
I didn't miss the fact it's called Border Patrol. That's kind of
Yeah.
That's kind of good. That's kind of good. Let me see if we have any more. Oh, Mark, who occupies the Carl Day building now that Diebenkorn had built?
The Diebenkorn family still owns it, but now it's got it's been a series of people in there. People in there right now make very fancy wallets.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think those questions are pretty good. It sort of expanded the conversation a little bit. And now I would turn this over to our program to our leadership. And I introduce Rob Schwenker, who is the executive director of the Santa Monica History Museum and a Mosaic partner. Rob, take it away.
Libby, thank you so much. Thank you to Mark. Thank you to Jan. Just a really engaging program. Thanks to everyone at the Conservancy, Libby, Steve, Adina, Mario, Tom, Caitlin, everybody who makes this program possible. It's a fantastic program. We're really happy to be a part of it. I say at these programs quite a bit that if you are a member of the Santa Monica History Museum, you ought to be a member of the Santa Monica Conservancy. And I think likewise, all of us here in the preservation community are working really hard for some of the same goals. And I'll add to that if you are a supporter of the Santa Monica History Museum, and if you are a supporter of the Santa Monica Conservancy, you also ought to be a supporter of the 18th Street Arts Center. We heard a really compelling program tonight about the good work that they do in this community, and they deserve your support as well. A great way to support us is through our membership program. If you are a member of the Santa Monica History Museum, you get all kinds of benefits. You can check out our website, the membership tab, to learn more about different membership levels and the benefits that you receive. But we are really curating a community of members. We have several events throughout the year that members join us for at the museum, and we'd be really happy to have you as part of that. The other way that you can support us is to come next week during this time, this very hour, we will be celebrating our annual event, Gala 24, Stand Ups for History. This event is fantastic on so many levels. The first thing is the food. We got Susan Feniger from Socolo. We got Rosa Blue and Superfine Playa, and the owner of that group, Dina Sampson. Sandra Cordero, who is the chef at a restaurant that's in its second year here in downtown Santa Monica, Juntos, a Spanish tapas restaurant, of course. We all know Cassia and Chef Joanna Lott, critically acclaimed here in Santa Monica. The program is going to be fantastic. My friend Nicole Blaine, who owns the comedy club that was referred to in Bergamot Station, the Crow, has helped us curate a lineup of comedians and storytellers. Stand-up comedian Brooklyn Jones, who you may recognize, will be among those in that lineup, but primarily who you're going to hear from are folks that have been part of her storyectomy program. Storyectomy, like appendectomy, but way more pleasant. Get the story out. And so she has helped a cohort of folks who have experienced homelessness tell their stories. And you're going to hear directly from them on that evening. You're also going to hear a musical performance from a group called the Freedom Singers. They appeared on America's Got Talent recently. They are unbelievable. They're going to open the show and blow the doors off the place. Many of the folks in the Freedom Singers were previously unhoused. We are going to honor Community Corporation of Santa Monica, which, as you all know, is the preeminent affordable housing provider here on the west side of Los Angeles, and just does such amazing work in our community. And this is all, in support of the Santa Monica History Museum, of course, but a culmination of sorts of our exhibit this year called Unhoused, a history of housing in Santa Monica, which is what we're currently presenting in the main gallery at the Santa Monica History Museum. We take you all the way back thousands of years to structures that Tongva people built here up to the present day. And we explore all of the issues around what I think is the most important topic facing us in Los Angeles County, which is housing. We talk about some things that we're not proud of in our history, like redlining and restrictive covenants. We talk about Santa Monica's role on the vanguard of issues like rent control and affordable housing, as I mentioned, and then what the future of housing looks like here in the city. And of course, we explore issues around the unhoused crisis and homelessness. And so you're really going to see a lot of those themes carried through at our event. It's an incredibly fun evening at the Santa Monica Bay Women's Club, really unique. As I said, great food, great entertainment. We would love to have you join us next Sunday night. If you don't already have tickets, you can go to santamonicahistory.org. The first thing that you're going to see pop up in that rotating banner there at the top of the page is a graphic for the event. You just click on that and you'll go right to the event page, and you too can register and join us next Sunday night at this time at the Santa Monica Bay Women's Club. Again, thank you to all my friends of the Conservancy. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jan, for all your work and for tonight's presentation. It's a pleasure to be with you, everybody.
And from the Shotgun House, we have our watch party. You can see everybody here. We wanted to say thank you to our presenters and for your generosity and your inspiration in sharing the stories of these artists, their work, and their impact in our community. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rob, for your intro, for all of our memberships. We hope that everybody can join both the Santa Monica Conservancy and the Santa Monica History Museum. And special thank you to those who put this program together for us. Libby Motika, Steve Loper, Adina Brunheimer, who conceptualized, create, and produce this Mosaic series. And with special thanks again to Boston Properties, our 2024 Mosaic sponsor. Boston Properties has been supporting this program throughout the year, and we were very thankful for their generosity. I'd also like to remind everybody, we have signature tours in Santa Monica. We have the tours of the Annenberg Community Beach House, the Downtown Walking Tour, and right here, the Shotgun House, because we are promoting the preservation of important places and cultural heritage. In addition to virtual presentations like tonight's Mosaic, these in-person experiences are truly amazing with our amazing docents and storytellers. And we're looking for more. We're looking for volunteers. We're looking for storytellers who can help share your Santa Monica with our neighbors, our guests, and our visitors. And we can't do this without you. And this summer, as we're winding down, I wanted to share that we've had a success of our newest programs at the Shotgun House, including the Main Street Tour you've heard about tonight with Mark Gorman. We also have a native garden, our garden tours of native plantings with Hilda Weiss. And we take a 3rd Street historic walk on Sundays with Mario Fondabernardi. And this past weekend, we were part of the successful California Preservation Foundation Open Doors program, which saw the Shotgun House along with 88 other sites in Southern California. And we're here tonight at the Little Shotgun House from 1897, one of Ocean Park's best kept secrets. And last but not least, please become a supporter. Give our historic places a voice. If you like what you've seen here tonight, please donate to the Conservancy and make sure we can continue offering programs and tours. And I wanted to highlight special for tonight that we are going to be hosting our own artist. Steve Galindo is going to be curating a piece of art that will be hanging on the side of the Conservancy's Shotgun House between this Friday, the 27th, and next and October 15th in honor of Latino Heritage Month. So stop in, see the art, and we hope you'll get a chance to see this vision that Steve is presenting here at the Shotgun House. So goodbye from Santa Monica at the Shotgun House, and we look forward to seeing you again at a Santa Monica Conservancy program soon. Thank you again.